The stars looked different when you traveled between them. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the viewing window of the human transport ship Eagle, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. Nexus Prime was bigger than any city on Earth. Its metal surface gleamed under the light of 3 different suns, and ships from dozens of alien worlds moved around it like insects around a bright lamp. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. 3 months ago, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel for the first time. 2 weeks later, they received a message from something called the Galactic Federation. The message was simple: come to Nexus Prime for peaceful talks about joining the galactic community. "Sir, we're getting close," said Captain Lisa Park, walking up behind him. She was his military attaché, smart woman who had studied every piece of information they could find about the Federation. "The aliens have assigned us Docking Bay 12. Jake nodded but kept looking out the window. He could see other ships now, vessels that looked nothing like human designs. Some were long and thin like needles, others were round like bubbles, and a few looked like they had grown instead of being built. Each one represented a different alien species, a different world somewhere in the galaxy. "What do you think they really want?" Lisa asked quietly. "I don't know," Jake replied. "But I know what they told us. They want to welcome humanity into their federation. They want to help us take our place in galactic society." Lisa made a small sound that might have been a laugh. "And you believe that?" Jake turned to look at her. Lisa was one of the smartest people he knew, and her instincts about people were usually right. "What do you think?" "I think when someone much stronger than you offers to help, you better ask what they want in return." The docking process took an hour. The Federation's technology guided their ship into the bay with invisible forces that felt like gentle hands pushing them into place. Jake watched through the cameras as alien workers in strange suits connected power cables and air tubes to their ship. Everything was efficient and organized, like they had done this thousands of times before. Dr. Alex Chen joined them as they prepared to leave the ship. He was their xenobiologist, the closest thing they had to an expert on alien life. His job was to help them understand the creatures they were about to meet. "I've been studying the data they sent us," he said, adjusting his glasses nervously. "The Federation has 12 member species. The dominant military force comes from a race called the Cathera. They're basically giant lizards with natural armor and incredible strength." "How giant?" Jake asked. 9 feet tall on average?
Maybe
300 pounds of muscle and bone plates. Their homeworld has twice Earth's gravity, so they're incredibly strong by our standards." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cole spoke up from where he was checking his sidearm. "Sounds like someone overcompensated." During evolution, Ryan was Jake's security chief, a Navy SEAL, with more combat experience than the rest of the team combined. He had volunteered for this mission because, as he put it, someone needs to watch the boss's back when he's talking to monsters. "They're not monsters," Dr. Chen said quickly. "They're intelligent beings with their own culture and society. We need to be respectful." Ryan shrugged. "I'll be respectful. Doesn't mean I won't be ready." The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Jake got his first smell of alien air. It was clean but strange, with hints of metal and something like ozone. The gravity felt normal, which meant the Federation had adjusted their station to accommodate human physiology. That was either very considerate or very well planned. Their escort was waiting for them. Jake had seen pictures, but meeting an alien in person was different. The being stood about 7 feet tall, with blue-gray skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything at once. It wore robes that shifted color as it moved and when it spoke. The words came from a translation device hanging around its neck. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the translator said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Kethra of the Vorthan people. The Federation Council is eager to meet with you." Jake stepped forward and offered his hand. The alien looked at it for a moment, then carefully extended one of its own appendages. The handshake was awkward but genuine. "Thank you for receiving us, Ambassador. I'm Commander Morrison, representing Earth's United Nations. Please follow me. There is much to see and discuss." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The station was like a city turned inside out. With buildings hanging from the ceiling and walkways crossing empty space at impossible angles, aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around them, some walking, others floating, a few that seemed to roll on hidden wheels. The Federation has maintained peace in this sector for over 2,000 years, Ambassador Kethra explained as they walked. We have learned that cooperation serves everyone better than conflict. Each species contributes their unique strengths to the whole. What would humanity contribute? Lisa asked. The ambassador's large eyes turned to her. That remains to be seen. Your species is very young, very new to space travel. You will need time to find your place in the galactic community. Ryan caught Jake's eye and raised an eyebrow. The message was subtle but clear. The Federation saw humanity. As children who needed guidance, they entered a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. Around the room, representatives from different alien species sat in groups, talking quietly among themselves. At the center was a raised platform where 3 figures waited. The Federation Council, Ambassador Kethra announced. The first counselor was another Vorthon, similar to their escort, but wearing more elaborate robes. The second looked like a living crystal, its faceted surface reflecting light in complex patterns. The third made Jake's breath catch in his throat. It was massive, easily 9 feet tall, and built like a tank. Dark green scales covered its body, like natural armor, and its yellow eyes studied the humans with obvious intelligence. This had to be one of the Cathara that Dr. Chen had described. When it moved, Jake could hear the soft click of claws on the metal floor. I am Chancellor Vernage, the Vorthan counselor said. This is Counselor Zarthik of the Crystalline Collective and Admiral Zexstar of the Cathara Defense Forces. Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect without showing weakness. Honored counselors, thank you for this opportunity. Humanity hopes to build peaceful relationships with all the Federation's member species. Chancellor Vernache nodded approvingly, but Jake noticed that Admiral Zexstar's expression didn't change. The massive alien was studying them like a predator watching prey. Peaceful relationships are the foundation of the Federation, the Chancellor said. But peace requires understanding. Understanding requires trust, and trust must be earned. What would you have us do? Jake asked. Admiral Zexstar stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over the human delegation. When he spoke, his voice was like gravel grinding together. The Federation believes in strength through unity. But unity requires that each member know their place, their role in the greater whole. And what role do you see for humanity? Lisa asked, though Jake could tell she already suspected the answer. That depends, Zexter said, his yellow eyes focusing on her. On whether your species is capable of accepting guidance from those with more experience. The words were polite, but the meaning was clear.
Ow.
The Federation saw humanity as primitive newcomers who needed to be controlled and directed by their betters. Jake felt Ryan tense beside him, but the SEAL kept his expression neutral. Dr. Chen was taking notes, trying to record everything for later analysis. Lisa was watching the other aliens in the chamber, noting their reactions to the conversation. We're always willing to learn, Jake said carefully. But humanity values independence and self-determination. We prefer cooperation between equals. Admiral Zexstar made a sound that might have been laughter. Equals, your species has been in space for less than a century. The Federation has maintained galactic civilization for millennia. What could you possibly offer as equals? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jake realized this was the real test, the moment that would determine how the Federation saw humanity going forward. His answer would shape the relationship between Earth and the galaxy for generations to come. The silence stretched for long seconds after Admiral Zexstar's challenge. Jake could feel the eyes of every alien in the chamber watching him, waiting to see how humanity would respond. Some looked curious, others seemed amused, but most appeared to already know what the answer would be. We offer what every species offers, Jake said finally. Our own unique perspective, our own solutions to problems, our own way of seeing the universe. Admiral Zexstar's scaled lips pulled back in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Perspective is valuable, Commander Morrison. But perspective without strength to back it up is just opinion. And opinions carry little weight in the real galaxy. Chancellor Vernosh raised one of his long-fingered hands. Perhaps we should demonstrate. What the Admiral means? The Federation has always believed that actions speak louder than words. Jake didn't like where this was heading, but he kept his voice steady. What kind of demonstration? Simple test, Zexstar said, his yellow eyes gleaming. Single combat between warriors? Your best fighter against ours. No weapons, no technology, just strength and skill. It would show us what humanity is truly. Capable of... Dr. Chen stepped closer to Jake and whispered urgently, "Sir, this could be a trap. We don't know anything about their combat abilities." But Jake was watching the aliens around the room. Some were leaning forward with interest. Others were making small sounds that might have been excitement. This wasn't just a test for humanity. This was entertainment for them. And if we refuse... Jake asked. Zhao shrugged, a gesture that looked strange on his massive frame. Then we know what kind of species we're dealing with. The Federation has no place for cowards. Lisa moved closer to Jake's shoulder. Sir, we should consider this carefully. We're not here to fight. We're here to negotiate. Sometimes fighting is negotiating, Ryan said quietly. He hadn't moved from his position behind Jake, but there was something different in his voice now. A hardness that spoke of years in combat. Zones, they're not really giving us a choice, are they? Jake looked around the chamber again. The alien representatives were watching with barely concealed anticipation. This had been planned from the beginning. The Federation wanted to put humanity in its place, and they wanted to do it publicly. Who would be your champion? Admiral Zexstar gestured to a section of the chamber where several Cathara warriors stood. Even among their own species, one stood out. He was bigger than the others, his scales darker, his bearing radiating confidence and menace. Scars covered his arms and face, telling stories of countless battles. Warrior Prime Gorthak Zexter announced, champion of the Kithra Defense Forces, undefeated in 237 single combats across 47 worlds. The massive warrior stepped forward, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Gorthok stood at least 10 feet tall and was built like a living tank. Were thicker than Jake's torso, and when he moved, the floor seemed to vibrate under his weight. He's never lost, Zexstar continued, not to crystalline warriors with their diamond-hard appendages, but to the gas giant dwellers with their pressure-adapted strength, not to the hive-mind soldiers who fight with perfect coordination. No species in the Federation has produced a warrior capable of matching him. Jake heard Dr. Chen swallow hard behind him. The doctor was probably running calculations in his head, trying to figure out how any human could possibly stand against such a creature. And our fighter would face him under what conditions? Jake asked. Federation standard combat rules, Chancellor Vernosh replied. No weapons, no armor, no technological assistance. Hand-to-hand combat until one fighter yields, or is unable to continue. Unable to continue, Lisa repeated quietly. You mean until one of them is dead? Death is possible, Zexstar admitted without concern, but not required. Most opponents yield when they realize they cannot win. Jake turned to look at his team. Dr. Chen looked terrified. Lisa looked angry. Ryan looked thoughtful, studying. Gorthak like he was examining a puzzle to be solved. I need a moment to discuss this with my people, Jake said. Of course, Chancellor Vernosh said graciously. Take all the time you need. Jake led his team to a corner of the chamber where they could speak privately. The aliens watched them go, many making sounds that Jake was starting to recognize as alien laughter. This is insane, Dr. Chen said immediately. Look at that thing. It's 3 times the size of any human and covered in natural armor. No human could possibly win against it. Maybe that's not the point, Lisa said. Maybe they want us to refuse so they can call us cowards and justify treating us like children. Or maybe they want us to accept so they can kill one of us and send a message. Dr. Chen replied. Jake looked at Ryan. What do you think? The SEAL was still watching Gorthok, his eyes moving over the alien warrior's form with professional interest. I think he's big and strong, and probably used to winning through intimidation. That's not exactly encouraging, Lisa said. I also think he's never fought a human before, Ryan continued. He doesn't know what we're capable of. None of them do. What are you saying? Jake asked. Ryan turned to face his commander. I'm saying that sometimes the biggest disadvantage you can have in a fight is overconfidence. In looking around this room, I'd say overconfidence is pretty much all they've got. Dr. Chen shook his head frantically. Ryan, this isn't some bar fight. A creature could literally tear you apart with his bare hands. Maybe, Ryan said calmly. But maybe not. Doc, you studied their physiology. What can you tell me about weak points? Dr. Chen looked confused. Weak points? Ryan, they evolved on a high-gravity world. Their bones are denser than ours. Their muscles are stronger. Their skin is like armor. Has weak points, Ryan insisted. Joints, nerve clusters, pressure points. Nobody's invincible. You're talking about precision strikes against an opponent who outweighs you by 200 pounds and has natural weapons, Lisa said. This isn't a video game, Ryan. No, it's not, Ryan agreed. It's a fight, and I've been in a lot of fights. Jake studied his security chief. Ryan Cole had 15 years of combat experience in the most dangerous places on Earth. He had survived missions that should have killed him and completed objectives that seemed impossible. If anyone could find a way to win against impossible odds, it would be him. You really think you can beat him? Jake asked. Ryan was quiet for a moment, still watching Gorthok. I think I can surprise him. Sometimes surprise is all you need. The aliens were getting restless. Some were pointing at the human group and making sounds that didn't need translation. They were growing impatient with the delay. We have to decide, Jake said. If we refuse, we look weak, and they'll treat us like subjects instead of potential allies. If we accept and lose, the same thing happens, plus we lose Ryan. And if we accept and win, Lisa asked. Then maybe we get some respect, Jake replied. Maybe we change how they see us. Ryan stepped closer to the group. Commander, I volunteer. I know the risks, but I also know that sometimes you have to fight for respect. These aliens think we're weak because we're small. Let's show them that size isn't everything. Dr. Chen grabbed Ryan's arm. This is suicide. That warrior has 2 centuries of combat experience. And I have 15 years of fighting enemies who wanted to kill me and everyone I was protecting. Ryan replied, plus, I have something he doesn't. What? Dr. Chen asked. Ryan smiled grimly. I know how to lose. I've been in situations where I should have died, where everything was against me, where the smart money said I wouldn't make it home. That creature has never lost a fight, which means he's never had to find a way to win when winning seems impossible. Jake made his decision. Right, Ryan, but I want you to know you don't have to do this. We can find another way. No, sir, Ryan said firmly. This is the way. They want to see what humanity is made of. Let's show them. They walked back to the center of the chamber where the Federation representatives waited. The alien crowd had grown larger, word of the coming combat spreading throughout the station. Jake could see beings he hadn't noticed before, creatures of all shapes and sizes gathering to watch the entertainment. We accept your challenge, Jake announced. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cole will represent humanity. Admiral Zextar's eyes glittered with satisfaction. Excellent. The combat will take place in the central arena. All Federation representatives are welcome to observe. Gorthok stepped forward and looked down at Ryan. When he spoke, his voice was like rocks grinding together. Little human, I will try to make your death quick. Ryan looked up at the massive warrior without flinching. That's very considerate of you. I'll try to do the same. The arena was a vast circular space in the heart of the station. Tiered seating rose up on all sides, and Jake was amazed to see how quickly word had spread. Thousands of aliens filled. The seats all eager to see the human fighter crushed by the Federation's champion as they prepared for combat. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the next few minutes would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. The arena floor was made of some kind of metal that felt warm under Ryan's boots. He stood in the center of the vast circular space, looking up at thousands of alien faces staring down at him. The noise was incredible. Clicking, buzzing, roaring. Sounds that he guessed were cheering, though it sounded more like a zoo at feeding time. Dr. Chen had pulled him aside just before they entered the arena. The scientist was nervous, sweating despite the cool air, but he had information that might save Ryan's life. "I studied their anatomy files," Chen had whispered urgently. "Akethera have external nerve clusters at the base of their skull and behind their primary joints. Their exoskeleton is strong, but it has gaps where it connects. If you can hit those spots with enough force, you might disrupt their nervous system," Ryan had repeated. "It's theoretical," Chen admitted. "Don't have any data on what kind of force would be required." Now, standing in the arena, Ryan pushed that conversation to the back of his mind. Theory was nice, but in combat, you relied on training, instinct, and adaptability. He had plenty of all three. Across the arena, Gorthok was performing some kind of ritual. The massive Cathara warrior was stretching, his movements surprisingly fluid for someone so large. Each motion showed off muscles like steel cables under his scaled skin. When he flexed his arms, Ryan could hear the aliens in the crowd making appreciative sounds. Jake, Lisa, and Dr. Chen sat in a special section reserved for the human delegation. Ryan could see them even from the arena floor. Jake looked grim but confident. Lisa was taking notes, probably documenting everything for her report. Dr. Chen looked like he might throw up, Admiral. Zextar's voice boomed across the arena through hidden speakers. "Citizens of the Federation, today we witness a historic moment. For the first time, a representative of the species calling themselves humans will face our champion in single combat." The crowd's noise grew louder. Ryan noticed that some aliens were holding small devices, probably recording the fight for later viewing. Great. His potential death was going to be entertainment across the galaxy. "The rules are simple," Zextar continued.
Yes.
"No weapons, no armor, no technological assistance. Combat continues until one fighter yields or is unable to continue." Ryan knew what that meant. This wasn't a sparring match or a friendly competition. This was a fight to the death, if necessary. Gorthak finished his ritual and turned toward Ryan, up close. The alien was even more intimidating. His yellow eyes held intelligence and cruelty in equal measure. Scars covered his arms and torso, proof of countless battles survived. When he smiled, his teeth looked like they could bite through steel. "Are you ready to die, little human?" Gorthak asked, his voice carrying easily across the arena. Ryan looked up at the towering warrior. "Are you ready to be surprised?" The answer seemed to amuse Gorthak. He laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. "I have fought warriors from every corner of the galaxy. What surprise could a primitive species like yours possibly offer?" "I guess we'll find out," Ryan said. A horn sounded, 3 long notes that echoed through the arena. The fight had officially begun. Gorthok didn't waste time with strategy or circling. He came straight at Ryan like a charging bull, his massive arms spread wide to grab the human and crush him. This was what they had come to see. Ryan waited until the last possible second, then dropped low and rolled to his right. Gorthak's claws whistled through the air where Ryan's head had been a moment before. The alien's momentum carried him forward several steps before he could stop and turn around. "Running will only delay the inevitable," Gorthok growled. But Ryan wasn't running, he was studying. In those few seconds of movement, he had learned several important things. Gorthok was fast for his size, but not as fast as a human. His reach was enormous, but that also meant he needed more time to change direction. And most importantly, the alien was used to opponents who tried to match his strength instead of avoiding it. Gorthak charged again, this time swinging his right arm in. A wide arc meant to catch Ryan wherever he tried to dodge. But Ryan didn't dodge sideways. He went forward, diving under the swing and rolling between Gorthak's legs. The crowd's noise changed tone. They had expected the human to be crushed by now. Instead, he was moving around their champion like he was playing a game. Ryan came up behind Gorthak and struck quickly at the base of the alien's skull, right where Dr. Chen had said the nerve cluster would be. His fist hit hard scales, but he felt something give slightly underneath. Gorthak roared and spun around, swinging his left arm backhanded. This time Ryan wasn't quite fast enough. The blow caught him in the ribs and sent him flying across the arena floor. He hit the metal surface hard and rolled several times before coming to a stop. Pain shot through his chest, and he tasted blood in his mouth. The crowd went wild. Finally, their champion had landed a hit. Gorthak raised his arms above his head in triumph, basking in the cheers of thousands of aliens. Ryan pushed himself to his feet, wincing at the pain in his ribs. At least two were cracked, maybe broken. But he was still standing, still breathing, still fighting. And he had learned something else important. His strike to the nerve cluster had affected Gorthak. The alien had roared not just in anger but in surprise and pain. "First blood to me, human," Gorthak called out. "Any more hits, do you think? You can survive?" Ryan wiped blood from the corner of his mouth. "Let's find out." This time when Gorthak charged, Ryan was ready. He waited until the alien committed to his attack, then moved at the last instant. But instead of just dodging, he grabbed Gorthak's extended arm and used the alien's own momentum against him. It was a move straight out of judo training. It's modified for an opponent 3 times his size. Ryan planted his feet, turned his hip, and threw all his weight into redirecting Gorthak's charge. The massive alien, caught off balance by his own speed, went tumbling across the arena floor. The crowd fell silent. Their champion, their undefeated warrior, was lying on his back looking. Confused, it was impossible. Humans were supposed to be weak, supposed to be easily defeated. Gorthak rolled to his feet with surprising speed, but Ryan could see that the fall had shaken him. For the first time in the fight, uncertainty flickered in the alien's yellow eyes. "Impossible," Gorthak muttered. "You are too small, too weak." "Size isn't everything," Ryan replied, circling slowly. "Sometimes being smaller is an advantage." Now Gorthak was more cautious. He approached slowly, his arms ready to block or grab. But caution worked against him. Strength was in overwhelming opponents with brutal speed and power. When he tried to be careful, he gave Ryan room to work. Ryan feinted left, then went right. As Gorthak turned to follow the movement, Ryan spotted his opening. The joint where the alien's arm connected to his shoulder. Exactly where Dr. Chen had said there would be a gap in the natural armor. Ryan struck with everything he had, driving his fist into the vulnerable spot with all the force his training and desperation could provide. He felt scales crack and heard Gorthak scream in genuine pain and shock. The alien's right arm went limp, hanging useless at his side. The crowd was completely silent now, unable to process what they were seeing. Their invincible champion was hurt, truly hurt. By a creature they had dismissed as insignificant. Gorthak looked at his useless arm in disbelief, then at Ryan with new respect and growing fear. "What are you?" he whispered. "I'm human," Ryan said simply. Gorthak tried to continue fighting with one arm, but the dynamic of the battle had completely changed. Ryan was no longer the underdog, trying to survive against impossible odds. He was a predator who had found weakness in his prey. The end came quickly. Gorthak, off balance and favoring his injured arm, left himself open for a fraction of a second. Ryan didn't hesitate. He stepped in close, grabbed the back of Gorthak's head with both hands, and drove his knee up into the exact spot where Dr. Chen had said the main nerve cluster would be. The impact made a sound like breaking glass. Gorthak's eyes rolled back, and his massive body went rigid, then collapsed like a falling tree. The arena floor shook when he hit. Ryan stood over the fallen champion, breathing hard, blood still trickling from his mouth. Around him, thousands of aliens sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The fight was over. The undefeated champion of the Cathara Defense Forces lay unconscious at the feet of a human who wasn't even supposed to be a real threat. In the delegation section, Jake was on his feet, hardly believing what he had just seen. Lisa was frantically taking notes, trying to record every detail. Dr. Chen was staring with his mouth open, his theoretical knowledge proven devastatingly correct. Ryan looked up at the silent crowd, then at the Federation officials who were struggling to process what had happened. He raised his voice so everyone in the arena could hear him. Anyone else want to test what humanity's capable of? The silence in the arena stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Thousands of aliens stared down at the impossible scene below. Their greatest warrior, the champion who had never lost a single fight in over 2 centuries, lay motionless on the metal floor. Standing over him was a human, a member of a species they had dismissed as primitive and weak. Ryan kept his eyes on the Federation officials in their special viewing box. Admiral Zexstar looked like someone had hit him with a brick. His yellow eyes were wide with shock and something else. Fear, maybe, or anger, probably both. Chancellor Vernache was the first to break the silence. His translator device crackled as he spoke. "This is impossible. There must have been some mistake, some violation of the rules. I monitored the entire combat," announced a mechanical voice from somewhere in the arena. "No rules were violated. No weapons or technology were used. The human fighter achieved victory through physical combat alone." Dr. Chen had taught Ryan enough about Federation technology to know that their monitoring systems were incredibly advanced. If they said the fight was clean, then it was clean. There was no arguing with their own machines. In the crowd, aliens were starting to make noise again, but it wasn't the excited cheering from before. It was confused, buzzing, worried, clicking, angry roaring. They didn't understand what they had just seen, and it frightened them. Ryan knelt beside Gorthak and checked the alien's pulse. The massive warrior was unconscious but alive. His breathing was steady, and his heartbeat was strong. Ryan had hit him hard enough to shut down his nervous system temporarily, but not hard enough to cause permanent damage. "He'll be fine," Ryan called out to the officials. "He's just knocked out. He fought well." It was a gesture of respect from one warrior to another, but Ryan also knew it was politically smart. If he had killed their champion, the Federation might have demanded blood in return. By showing mercy, he proved that humans could be both deadly and civilized. Admiral Zexstar finally found his voice. "How?" The single word carried all his confusion and disbelief. Ryan looked up at the massive Cathera admiral. "Your champion was strong and experienced, but he had never fought someone like me. He expected me to try to match his strength. Instead, I used his strength against him." Dr. Chen was making his way down to the arena floor, probably wanting to check on both Ryan and Gorthok. Jake and Lisa were right behind him, moving through the confused crowd of Federation representatives. "Explain this victory," Zexstar demanded. "Your species is small, weak, fragile. How did you defeat our strongest warrior?" Ryan wiped more blood from his mouth and thought about how to answer. The truth was complicated. Humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had learned to survive not through raw strength, but through intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to find weakness in anything that threatened them. "We're not as weak as you think," Ryan said simply. "And strength isn't just about size." Dr. Chen reached the arena floor and immediately started examining both fighters. He checked Ryan's ribs, confirming they were cracked but not broken, then moved to Gorthik. The alien champion was starting to stir, his yellow eyes blinking as consciousness slowly returned. Jake and Lisa arrived moments later. Jake put a hand on Ryan's shoulder, his expression mixing pride with concern. "Are you all right? I'll live," Ryan replied. "Few broken ribs, nothing serious." Lisa was watching the crowd of aliens above them. "We need to be very careful about what happens next." Half of them look amazed, the other half look angry. She was right. Ryan could see the division in the crowd. Some aliens were leaning forward, studying the humans with new interest. Others were making aggressive gestures and loud noises that didn't need translation. Gorthak sat up slowly, holding his head with his good arm. The other arm was still hanging useless at his side. When he saw Ryan, he didn't show anger or resentment. Instead, he nodded with something that looked like respect. "You fought with honor," Gorthok said, his voice rougher than before. "I have underestimated your species. You fought with honor, too," Ryan replied. In another situation, on another day, things might have gone differently. Dr. Chen was running his scanner over Gorthok's injured arm. "The nerve damage is temporary," he announced. "Full function should return within a few hours." The alien champion looked at Dr. Chen with surprise. "You heal your enemies?" We heal anyone who needs healing, Dr. Chen replied. That's what doctors do. This seemed to confuse Gorthok even more. In his experience, combat was about dominance and submission. The idea that the winning side would help the losing side was foreign to him. Admiral Zexstar had climbed down from the viewing box and was approaching the group on the arena floor. His massive form radiated tension and barely controlled anger. Other Federation officials were following him, all talking at once in languages Ryan couldn't understand. This changes nothing, Zexstar announced when he reached them. One victory. In combat does not make your species equal to the Federation's established powers. Jake stepped forward to face the Admiral. With respect, Admiral, I think it changes everything. Your champion was supposed to prove that humans needed to accept guidance from stronger species. Instead, we proved that strength comes in many forms. You proved that you can fight, Zexstar replied. It's nothing more. But Ryan could see that wasn't true. Around the arena, groups of aliens were having intense discussions. Some were pointing at the humans, others at their own delegations. Comfortable assumptions that had governed Federation politics for centuries had just been shattered. A new voice joined the conversation. It belonged to a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin and multiple arms. Ryan recognized the species from their briefing materials. The Zilani were one of the smaller Federation members, often overlooked by the more powerful species. Honored Admiral, the Zilani representative said carefully, "Perhaps we should reconsider our evaluation of the human potential." Zexstar turned his angry gaze on the smaller alien. And what would you suggest, Counselor Zexstar? I suggest that we have been thinking about this incorrectly, Zexstar replied. We assumed the humans were weak because they are small. But what if their size is an advantage? What if their different evolution has given them capabilities we don't understand? Other aliens were nodding now. Ryan could see the political landscape shifting in real time. Species that had been content to follow the Kithora's lead were suddenly questioning that arrangement. One fighter does not represent an entire species, Zexstar insisted, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. What? Maybe not, Jake said. But every human trains from childhood in some form of combat or competition. We play sports that require strategy and teamwork. We study martial arts that teach us to use an opponent's strength against them. We compete with each other constantly, which makes us all stronger. This was news to the Federation representatives. Most of their species had evolved past the need for individual combat skills. They relied on technology and military hierarchies to maintain order. Dr. Chen looked up from his medical scanner. There's something else you should know. Human evolution was shaped by what we call persistence hunting. We're not the fastest or strongest predators on our world, but we can outlast almost anything. We never give up. Chancellor Vernash had been quiet during this exchange, but now he spoke up. Are you saying that this fighting ability is common among your species? I'm saying that Ryan here isn't even our best fighter, Jake replied. It's good, but there are humans who could probably defeat him in combat. And there are millions of humans who have similar training. The implications of this statement rippled through the crowd of aliens. They had assumed that humanity would send their absolute best warrior to such an important demonstration. The idea that Ryan was just one of many skilled fighters was deeply unsettling. Gorthok struggled to his feet, refusing Dr. Chen's offer of help. Despite his injuries, the massive warrior carried himself with dignity. He looked at Ryan for a long moment, then spoke loud enough for everyone in the arena to hear. This human fought me with honor and skill. He could have killed me, but chose mercy instead. His victory was earned through intelligence and training, not luck or trickery. I name him Warrior Friend, and I will speak of his courage to any who will listen. Coming from the Federation's greatest champion, this endorsement carried enormous weight. Murmurs spread through the crowd as aliens processed what they had just heard. Admiral Zexstar's expression grew darker. Your words are noted, Gorthok, but this does not change Federation policy. Maybe it should, said another voice. This time, it belonged to a crystalline being whose faceted surface reflected the arena lights and complex patterns. The Federation has always claimed to value strength and skill. We have just witnessed both from a species we knew nothing about. More aliens were speaking up now, their voices creating a cacophony of different languages and opinions. The unity that had characterized the Federation for millennia was cracking, and everyone could see it happening. Jake realized that this was the moment when everything would be decided. The fight had been just the beginning. Now came the real battle, the one fought with words and politics instead of fists. The outcome would determine whether humanity joined the galaxy as equals or as subjects. 3 hours after the fight, Jake sat in a conference room deep inside Nexus Prime. The walls were transparent, showing the vast emptiness of space beyond. But Jake's attention was focused on the heated argument taking place around the circular table. The Federation Council was splitting apart before his eyes. What had started as a simple demonstration of human weakness had become a crisis that threatened to tear apart their entire political system. The humans must be contained, Admiral Zexstar was saying, his voice filled with barely controlled rage. They are dangerous, unpredictable. We cannot allow them to spread through the galaxy unchecked. Counselor Thexera, the pale blue Zilani representative, shook her head. Contained, Admiral. They defeated our greatest warrior in fair combat. Perhaps we should be asking for their friendship instead of trying to control them. Friendship. Zexstar's laugh was harsh. They are primitives who got lucky. One victory does not make them our equals. But Jake could see that many of the other representatives disagreed. The fight had changed everything. Species that had been loyal Federation members for centuries were now questioning the Cathara dominance that had ruled galactic politics for so long. Ryan sat beside Jake, his ribs wrapped in Federation medical tape that was far more advanced than anything Earth had. Dr. Chen had insisted on the treatment, and the alien doctors had been surprisingly helpful. Maybe it was professional courtesy, or maybe they were curious about human physiology. The real question, said Counselor Zarthik, the crystalline being who served as the Federation's science advisor, is what this tells us about human potential. If one human can defeat our champion, what might their entire species be capable of? Chancellor Vernash had been quiet through most of the argument, but now he spoke up. We have protocols for this situation. When a new species demonstrates significant military capability, they are offered full membership with appropriate safeguards. Safeguards? Jake asked. What kind of safeguards? Military oversight, Zexstar replied immediately. Your weapons. Technology would be monitored. Your expansion into space would be controlled. Your training methods would be regulated. In other words, Lisa said quietly, you want to turn us into a client state? The room fell silent. Lisa had put into words what everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to say. Federation wasn't offering humanity partnership. They were offering supervised slavery with better decorations. Jake stood up slowly, feeling the weight of every alien gaze in the room. Thank you for your generous offer, but I think we'll decline. Decline. Chancellor Vernash sounded genuinely confused. Commander Morrison, you don't understand. This is not a negotiation. Species that refuse Federation membership are considered hostile, and hostile species are dealt with accordingly, Zexstar added, his meaning clear. Jake looked around. The table at the assembled alien representatives? Some looked uncomfortable with the threat. Others seemed eager for conflict. He realized that humanity had walked into a trap. The Federation had never intended to treat them as equals. They had planned from the beginning to either control Earth or destroy it, I see, Jake said calmly. So our choices are submission or war. Those have always been the choices, Zexstar replied. Most species choose submission. It's easier. Ryan spoke up for the first time since entering the conference room. What about the species that chose war? The question hung in the air like a threat. Several of the alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. That chose war, Chancellor Vernash said carefully. All current Federation members joined voluntarily. That's not what I asked, Ryan said. I asked what happened to the species that chose war. The silence stretched longer this time. Finally, Counselor Thexera answered. They were pacified. For the good of galactic stability. Pacified, Dr. Chen repeated. You mean conquered? We prefer the term civilized, Zexstar said. The Federation brought order to chaotic systems. We eliminated the threat of aggressive species before they could harm peaceful civilizations. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Federation wasn't just an alliance of spacefaring species. It was an empire that crushed anyone who refused to bow down. And now they had their sights set on Earth. "How many species have you civilized?" Jake asked. That information is classified," Chancellor Vernash replied quickly. But Gorthok, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, spoke up. 17 species in the last 2,000 years. Some fought bravely, none survived, as independent civilizations. The admission sent shockwaves around the table. Even some of the Federation representatives looked surprised. This was obviously not information that was shared widely, Gorthak Zextar warned. "You speak of classified military operations. I speak of truth," the wounded champion replied. "These humans deserve to know what they face, fought with. Honor. They deserve an honorable choice." Jake appreciated Gorthak's honesty, but it didn't change the fundamental problem. Humanity was facing a choice between slavery and extinction, and they were outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. "What's your fleet strength?" Ryan asked casually, as if he was asking about the weather. "Our what?" Chancellor Vernash looked confused. "Military fleet? How many ships do you have? What kind of weapons? How many soldiers?" Ryan's voice was still casual, but Jake could hear the professional interest underneath. Admiral Zextar leaned forward aggressively. "Are you planning to fight the entire Federation, human?" Ryan shrugged, wincing slightly as the movement pulled at his injured ribs. "I'm planning to gather information. It's what good soldiers do before a battle." "This is madness," Counselor Zextar said. "The Federation has millions of ships across 12 star systems. Humanity has what? A few dozen vessels?" "Actually," Dr. Chen said thoughtfully, "we have about 300 ships capable of interstellar travel. Most of them are exploration and cargo vessels, but they could be converted." 300 ships against millions? Zextar laughed. "Even if every human fought like your champion, the numbers are impossible." Jake was thinking furiously. The Federation was huge and powerful, but they had revealed something important. They were used to crushing isolated species one at a time. They had never faced a united opponent with advanced technology and the will to fight. "You're right," Jake said finally. "The numbers are impossible. If we fought you alone?" "What do you mean?" Chancellor Vernash asked suspiciously. Jake gestured around the table. "I mean, we wouldn't be fighting alone. Look around this room. Half of you are terrified of what the Federation has become. You've been watching the Cathara dominate galactic politics for centuries, waiting for someone strong enough to challenge them. You think other species would join a human rebellion?" Zextar's voice was filled with contempt. "They are loyal Federation members, are they?" Jake asked. "Or are they just afraid?" Could see it hit a nerve. Several of the alien representatives were avoiding eye contact, but others were looking thoughtful. Counselor Zextar was the first to speak. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander Morrison?" "I'm proposing that humanity withdraws from these negotiations. We return to Earth and prepare our defenses. We make it clear to any Federation species that want freedom that they have an alternative." "You're talking about rebellion?" Chancellor Vernash said. "About destroying the peace that has lasted for millennia." "I'm talking about ending a tyranny that has lasted for millennia," Jake replied. "The Federation isn't about peace, it's about control, and some things are worth fighting against." Admiral Zextar stood up, his massive form towering over the table. "If you leave this station, you will be declaring war on the Federation. We will respond accordingly." Jake stood up as well, feeling small next to the alien admiral, but refusing to be intimidated. "Then, I guess we're at war." Ryan and Dr. Chen stood up beside him, followed by Lisa. The human delegation faced the assembled aliens with calm determination. "Is your final chance," Zextar warned. "Surrender now and accept Federation oversight. Refuse, and your species will be destroyed." "We refuse," Jake said simply. "Humanity doesn't surrender." As they walked out of the conference room, Jake could hear angry voices erupting behind them. The Federation had expected humans to cave under pressure, to choose survival over freedom. They had badly miscalculated. On the ship back to Earth, Dr. Chen was already working on defensive strategies. Lisa was drafting messages to other species that might be willing to join a resistance movement. Ryan was planning training programs to prepare human forces for a war unlike anything in Earth's history. Jake looked out at the stars and thought about what was coming. The Federation had millions of ships and billions of soldiers. They had technology beyond human understanding and experience, spanning thousands of years, but they had never faced humans before. They didn't understand what it meant to be a species that had crawled up from a death world, that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them. They didn't know what it meant to face an enemy that would never give up, never surrender, never stop fighting for freedom. The Federation was about to learn. She suspected they weren't going to like the lesson. The war for humanity's future was about to begin, and Earth would not be fighting alone.